your Filipino to like, please change this as soon as possible. You can't do that.
Support should not be an ongoing, never-ending thing. It might be that the Westerner kind of likes the
Yeah,
control. We can't read your brains. We can't read your minds. If it's going to work, there needs to be a blend of those two cultures.
Welcome in to another episode of Foreigner Loves
Filipina!
Welcome into another episode of Foreigner Loves Filipina. Today we're going to take on a topic we've never taken on before. We've done many videos in the past about how the foreigner needs to adjust to Filipino culture in order for a healthy marriage. But one of our viewers, Chris from Cash Corp, pointed out we've had a huge blind spot that we've never actually addressed how the Filipina needs to adjust to a Western culture. So today, Melanie's going to share some of the changes that she had to make in order to make for a healthy marriage. And all of these, or most of these anyhow, will apply whether or not you've brought your Filipino to your home country or you've moved to the Philippines. So let's get into point number one. No conversation in this area would be complete without a discussion on Tampo, with a world famous Tampo. We've covered a lot on the topic of Tampo in the past, but it has been mainly how us as Westerners need to adjust to our Filipinos' way of dealing with conflict. Let's talk a little bit about why it's important for you as a Filipina to understand the Western way of dealing with conflict, and that is that we can't read your brains, we can't read your minds, and if you don't tell us what's wrong, we can't base everything on intuition, hoping that we figure out what you're upset about. So talk a little bit about how you've had to make that adjustment, just like I've had to try to adjust to understanding why you act the way you do.
Yeah, I know, like, I already been heard about us, having this tampo, and it's really like an immature. Especially when you have like an argument with your husband, and then you as a Filipino, you just like go straight to the room and then just not talking about, the problem. And so I've been like, I still have that now, but hey, at least I've been like kind of, how do you say that, babe? Like manage or not?
Manage or moderate. we're gonna give her credit for making small steps in the right place.
Moderate with my tampo. Last time that we have an agreement, like I'm not really like, I keep telling Darryl I'm not good in communication, especially when we have disagreement. So what I did is I texted him. But at least I made an effort to text him, this is what I feel, and so
It started the conversation.
I think that's a good effort for me because I'm not
It was a step in the right direction.
yeah.
I will say, at least at this point, I think she has a better understanding why she's doing what she does, and she has acknowledged that it's probably not the most healthy way to deal with conflict, where early on, it's just the normal way there. So I don't think that she saw anything dysfunctional about that, right? And so it does take some time and some effort on both sides. Obviously, I've had to try to understand why she acts the way she does, and she needs to understand. And obviously, just our way of dealing with conflict is a lot different than the way they're used to dealing with conflict. And their conflict is just don't deal with it at all. Ignore it.
Because I've been, experienced that for like until I get to me as a teenager, until I get to 20. So when my dad or when my mom scolded me, so the way I like confront it is to go to my bedroom and just like cry there and not even talk the problem or not even discuss it with my mom why they're upset to me or like why I'm doing this to them, And so like when I just get out the room and then everything just
you just act
acting like there's nothing happened. So I get used to that.
I will speak to the Westerners for a minute because we've discussed this topic before. Every time we've ever discussed it, I gotta say I'm a bit surprised at the way some of the Westerns react, because they're always like, well, it's so childish to act that way. I can't believe you put up with that. You should just leave her. That's so immature. And I agree it's immature, okay?
Yeah.
But I also think it's really immature to say you should just leave her because she goes in the Tampo and you should never put up with that. That's just as immature. Okay, guys, part of being in a relationship is trying to understand each other. I know Melanie has a good heart. I try to understand why she acts the way she does. And obviously, I am the older of the two, so I should probably act a little more mature than she should. So while obviously the Filipina needs to understand our culture and she needs to learn to communicate better, you also have to understand that's the way they were raised, that's the way they've been taught that it is to be done. And it's a shock to their system, just like it's a shock to our system.
Like if you want your Filipino to like, please change this as soon as possible, you can do that. Just be respectful to, it needs to be step by step. The adjustment that I made is, I think, for Darrell, maybe what do you think about it? Like, I mean, it's still not,
I think it was a baby step.
it's still not,
It was a baby step. But I did notice it because when
still not perfect, though.
it was funny because when she sent me the text, I did say to myself, okay, she's trying to communicate. She's trying to communicate. And I responded, I said, I don't think this is best for us to discuss by text. I think I told her, I said, why don't you express what you want to express through text? I'm not going to respond. I will wait till I get home. And then we did that. So she expressed herself by text because she felt more comfortable expressing it that way. Okay, so then I understood her perspective. And then when we got home, we sat down and had a discussion. And so everything's a give and take in this area. It's definitely a give and take.
So I think I'm getting there.
By the time I'm 80, it'll all be resolved.
Like 30 years from now.
All right, on to the next point. In the Philippines, they tend to live for the day. There's not a lot of long-term planning financially going on in most Filipina families. They have a term known as Bahala Na, which basically is what happens, what comes, or
whatever happens,
right.
And you just go
and that you'll just adjust to whatever comes today, that you'll adjust to it. And while that is a carefree expression, and it I think has a lot to do with why Filipinos are so happy because they just don't stress over the future. It also means they don't plan for the future. And that can be a real struggle for a marriage where you have a Westerner, where we're trained more to save money and to plan a future. And particularly if you're an older American, you're obviously trying to plan towards your retirement. Where with them, there's really not a lot of that going on. It's as long as we can eat today, and as long as the lights are on today, and as long as there's gas on the motorcycle today, everything's good. We'll worry about tomorrow. So maybe speak a little bit about how you've had to adjust in thinking about those things.
Yeah, so I know that you as a listener here are really good in planning, and that's already one in our episode that me and my friend talked about it, because you guys, we already salute you for being like a planner, for like saving for your future and things like that. And that's what I saw with Darrell, because Darrell, he's already retired because he's good in saving. Like he saved when he's still young, and I think it's really a good thing that also wants me to be like that. Like I want to maybe like work hard and so that I can retire.
Yeah, I'm trying to teach her financial things, and I will say it is a bit shocking how financial illiterate most Filipinos are. They have no understanding of loans and credit scores and any of those type of things. And so I've really been trying to help her. I could tell a lot of times her eyes just kind of glaze over. And of course, with that, it kind of leads into one of the financial things that can become a crunch to the family budget is sending support home. And we've done multiple episodes on this already, so we won't dive too much into this, other than to say that while I've had to try to understand her desire to send family support home and the cultural differences, because there are substantial differences, and it took me a while to really comprehend them, she's had to understand how we view it differently, and that support should not just be an ongoing, never-ending thing.
When I first got here in America and I got my first job, so I just didn't even think about, my partner, Darrell, as my husband. I just think about my family that I want to send them, money every month. And so like when I think Darryl like first noticed that, like, cause he can't access, he have access on my debit card. Is that what you said? That? So he have access, so he can see all these transactions in there. And so I think we discussed about it, and then he said that, hey, can you please, I don't know what's actually the word that you said to me, but the way how I adjusted it is like by listening to, what Darryl said, like, I still want to respect my husband because I know that, Darryl is not gonna also like just vanish my culture, just like forget my family. I know that he still care about me and about my family. So we ended up having this agreement that, hey, can you please do this in your family? Yeah, I'm gonna allow you to send, but there's like, what we call limit or boundary. So that's what we
Yeah,
have
I think
agreed.
the discussion really came down to boundaries and a limit as to how much we're going to send. We sat down and we discussed it, and I think it took us several months to kind of figure out each other, understand each other. It wasn't like one conversation.
Yeah, it is still a long process for us to figure it out because like sometimes, I got so like I feel offended about
Well, you got a
what
little
Darryl said.
defensive,
Yeah, defensive about it. So but then yeah, we ended up, go doing it in a good way.
Yeah.
Like when you lived here in America and then people there in back in the Philippines, they know that you work here in America, they will just like some friends, they will just message you and ask for money, and I've experienced that a lot, but I'm smart enough to know that they are not my priority, and that's what
and she just recently shared that with me. I didn't realize that she had a bunch of her friends from like college and growing up hitting her up for money. So you've learned that now when someone not a family member but these friends ask you for money, you just tell them that your priority is
it's
your
my
your
family,
parents.
and I'm really lucky with some of them because they understand it,
Yeah, and it's funny because I dated a Filipina that lived here in America prior to meeting Melanie, and we were just boyfriend girlfriend. And while it was a long term relationship, it was never marriage, and we never lived together. And I knew we would never get married. And I do remember with her that she had all these friends back in the Philippines asking for money, and they always had some problem, and she kept sending money. Now, because we weren't married and we weren't living together and we weren't commingling money, I didn't feel it was really my place to really intrude too much. But I do remember telling her a few times, why do you keep sending money to these people? They always have another disaster the very next month. And I really, at that point, I didn't understand how it was a cultural thing. I just thought she was kind of weak, and I knew she wasn't good with money. And so that is something with a Filipina that they need to learn, that they're going to have to learn how to control that and stop that, particularly if they're going to be in a marriage with a Western man who is likely going to be a lot more restrained in how he deals with his finances. So one other big change that Filipinos have to make to adjust to our culture is learning to drive. In the Philippines, particularly if they're provincial Filipinos that live out in the province like she did, nobody in her family drives a car. They drive motorcycles, because in the Philippines there's a lot of public transportation. So even though she did have her own motorcycle or drive motorcycles, like if she needed to go into town, there are buses and vans that can get her into Naval and then get her into Tacloban. And obviously here in America, that being able to drive is important, not only for her independence. I think it's vitally important for her to have her own independence, but also so that she's not a burden on me. If I got to cart her everywhere she goes, obviously that becomes difficult on me, and it becomes a burden on our relationship. And we actually know some Filipinas that have been here in America for a long time and still do not drive.
The adjustment I've made is like, wanted to really drive, because when I first got here, and then the store are like far away to your house. Like you can even,
you're not walking to it.
No, you can walk, but maybe it will take you 30 minutes before you get there. So it's not like in the Philippines that you can walk the store. It makes you really want to motivate to learn how to drive because of that. So that's the adjustment that I made. I want to learn to drive, and that's what I
Yeah,
did.
so she learned to drive pretty much as soon as she was able to, and what she had her social security number and
Yeah.
everything, and then she was able to learn to drive. Now I will advise guys, go get her a driving teacher. Don't try to teach her yourself. We did another whole episode on that. You don't want to try to teach your Filipina to
Yeah.
drive. But I do think it's important for the healthy relationship
Yeah.
that she learns. I can certainly see where maybe some Westerners wouldn't want her to drive. And I think that might be why some Filipinas don't drive. It may not be that the Filipino doesn't want to. It might be that the Westerner kind of likes the
Yeah,
control.
that's a good question.
They kind of like the control of, oh, well, she can't go anywhere without me.
Because, yeah.
Now, I think there are some where it's the Filipina is too skittish or scared
Yeah,
to drive.
so-
I think we actually know examples of both.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for her independence. I viewed it more based on her having her independence. I thought that was important. But it is important for the health of the relationship, because if I was having to haul her around everywhere like she was, one of my kids, then, I don't think that's a healthy relationship. So another thing that Filipinos really have to adjust to our culture for a healthy marriage is kind of understanding alone time, and how we quite often, not all, but most, I think, enjoy alone time and time on our own. I know that's certainly true of me. I've always enjoyed some time by myself. And Filipinas, they're very communal people, and they're used to, living in a house with a lot of people in a small area. And so you don't get a lot of alone time because you probably have no choice for that. So talk a little bit about how you've had to adjust to understanding that for my health and for my happiness, I kind of need some time where I can be by myself.
Yeah, so, I also, me as a Filipina, even like in my family, I don't have choice but to get along with each other. And we always have these parties, like every day we have, a lot going on in our house. But here with Darryl, just the two of us. So I think I also like my alone time. Like if Darryl likes his alone time, I also like at first it's hard for me to kind of do what Darrell, meant about like alone time.
Giving space.
Yes, like giving space, because I feel
You feel like
abandoned,
rejected,
or I feel
like I don't love you.
registered. Yeah, like I feel like Darrell doesn't love me. But the more we talked about it, like, hey babe, like I really like my alone time too. I wanna do this, and so I kind of understand, like, oh yeah, I think it's also healthy for a relationship to have like our alone time. It's just like not us being 24/7 in the house, and it's really sickening. Like if we're 24/7, baby, and then we're like close, it's like I'm so sick of you. I don't want to be around you anymore. So
Well, and I think when you spend some time apart, it makes when you're together
miss you.
it makes it better.
Exactly, yeah. Like sometimes when Dara is like 2 hours or 3 hours, like not being able together, I missed him. Like, oh, miss Dara.
Luckily, she enjoys her alone time, and then obviously it allows her to spend time with her girlfriends
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff like that.
I think maybe it's just maybe also because of the trust. Like I have 101 trust
Right.
with you.
Yeah, if you had any reason
Yeah.
to worry, then it would be different.
Yeah. So that's why I let Darrell, go do his thing. And
So another area that Filipinos really need to adjust to help for a healthy marriage is in the kitchen. And that is, they're obviously grow up learning Filipino food. And while I enjoy some Filipino food, I certainly don't want it for every single meal. And I think probably most Americans or Westerners don't want it for every single meal. And so it's important that if she's going to be the primary cook, which she is in our home, that she learns some dishes of, Western style dishes, maybe some of your favorites, maybe from, your mom, like, my mom, learning some of my favorite dishes and how to cook them. And Melanie's actually been quite good at that. I will say it did take some time. Initially, at the very beginning, she made pretty much all Filipino foods. And over time, she has begun making other Western style foods and things that she just knows that I like. And, it took a little bit of time for that to all develop, but maybe talk a little bit about that, because particularly to a Filipina, preparing food is a love language. And it's so when you prepare food, if you're only preparing Filipino food, and I only eat Filipino food in my own house, I begin to feel like a foreigner in my own house, right? I got to have some of my mashed potatoes
Yeah.
and my hamburger and some of the things we're used to here so that I feel at home. And, I will say quite often, she creates, so sometimes she'll make a Filipino meal and we both eat that. Sometimes she makes an American meal and we both eat that. And then there are times she makes some of each. And then she eats her Filipino food and I eat mine. Yesterday she made me some chicken and she ate dried fish. so maybe talk a little bit about kind of how you've had to do that and how you've had to learn how to cook some Western dishes.
Yeah, so well, Darryl is just lucky that I don't really cook a lot of Filipino food because, like, when I was in the Philippines, my mom is the one cooking, and so like here when I first got here in America, and so like I sometimes feel homesick, so I want to eat my own food, and I try to cook it sometimes, but sometimes it's not perfect. But then the more I tried to cook like, like American food, sometimes it tastes good. So I research or I try to watch YouTube on how to make, American food. So
You use a lot of Chat GDP
Chat
for recipes.
GPT, like now, Chat GPT, to make also Darryl feel at home that he don't need to go out. So it's really nice also to not only cook your own food as a Filipino, but also think about your partner because, sometimes they don't want to eat the Filipino food to eat.
Well, and
So
I think you've enjoyed trying new things and then seeing if I like it. And when I like it, you really love
like
it.
it too.
Because there's been a few dishes just in the last couple of months that she's tried some new things, and a lot of them were really, really good. And I think she enjoyed that.
That Darryl likes it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just not about, that's the adjustment that I also made to make Darryl feel at home.
So Filipinos, one of the things they're the most famous for is Filipino time, which basically means they're always late. they kind of arrive whenever they want to. In the West, being late is really considered inconsiderate and disrespectful because you're showing a lack of concern for the other person's time. If you say you're going to be there at 5 o'clock and you don't show the 5:30, which in Filipino time, 5:30 might actually be early.
Yeah.
I mean, a half hour might be, better than most. So talk a little bit about how you've had to adjust to, kind of in America where everything is on a schedule and when people expect you to be in time.
But some of my friends here still does the Filipino time. Yeah, so I think we don't really have problem with the Filipino time adjusting on it because
Well, I mean, it wasn't as big a problem for you, but I think for a lot of Filipinos, they would have to adjust. I know that the Filipina I had dated that was, she'd been in America for a long time before I even met her. She was terrible with Filipino time. And it drove me crazy. And I just thought it was so disrespectful because she was always late. And what really bothered me is when I would say something about her being late and how disrespectful I thought it was, she would just laugh. Well, that's just Filipino time. You just got to adjust. You just got to get used to it. And I didn't. So obviously, guys, when you're in a multicultural relationship, there's going to take a lot of understanding and give and take from both sides to try to understand each other's culture. And it's not just about the Westerner understanding the Filipino culture. The Filipino needs to understand the Westerner's culture. If it's going to work, there needs to be a blend of those two cultures. And that's one of the things that's beautiful about a multicultural relationship is understanding each other and adapting to each other's lives and taking the best parts of each. Because I think there are some parts of America culture that are better than Filipinos, and there are some part of Filipino cultures that are definitely better than America. And when you can bridge those together, you can really make a beautiful thing. But it does require compromise on both couples. Thank you very much.
Thank you.